Hello, because I'm Eric. Somewhere over there is Tiffany. Somewhere around here is Steven. We are Just Got Played, and today we're going to be reviewing Aqua Garden. First, Steve's going to give us a look at the game, and we'll be right back.
In Aqua Garden, you're trying to collect exotic fish to put in your aquarium for display. So whichever player is currently furthest back in the track gets to go. So let's say this player really wanted this fish. They jump ahead, they take that fish, and then they can do some other things on their turn. So now that it's our turn, I'll show you. We're going next. Say maybe we're going to jump ahead and take this sea turtle. Now, we'll put this aside, and you can see on my board, that's my manager, this is my worker. I have to move this worker between 1 and 3 spaces. I can move them a little further by paying money if I want to. So I'm going to move this worker 1 space, and now I can buy things if I want to, and that's sort of important because the sea turtle requires me to have a seaweed in the tank with it for me to put it there. So I can buy anything I want from this ocean board here. So I can spend for 2 money. So I'll spend 2 money. I'll buy this seaweed. And now I can put the sea turtle here. I actually could have put it in either tank that is next to this worker. I want to put the sea turtle here because I have this private objective, sort of this feeding event. It says when my worker crosses over here, I will immediately get 1 money for every pair of sea turtle and large fish I have between these 2 tanks. I didn't have any earlier when I crossed that, so that would just be 0. So the next player, they could take, say, this small fish for free because it is still their turn because they're last and they could jump ahead. They could jump onto the advertising space. The advertising space is one way to get money in the game. So everything that is listed here, you know, for every large fish, you would get 1 money. And you choose whichever one you want to activate. You just get the money for that. At the beginning of the game, there wouldn't be anything for them to advertise and get because they just had that 1 clownfish. So they might just jump ahead and say, take this whale shark, right? And when you're putting things in the tanks, it's also important to note that every tank has 4 oxygen. And so if you look at the different fish here, like a sea turtle takes 2, a whale shark takes 4, a shark takes 2 oxygen. Also, a shark can't be in a tank with a small fish, a large fish, or a sea turtle. So there are some rules there. A seaweed, which you can only have 1 seaweed in a tank, actually gives you 2 extra oxygen, so you can have 6 oxygen in a tank. This handy little thing here tells you that it costs 2 money to buy something from there to put it in a tank next to your worker. This tells you you can pay 1 extra to move your worker a little further around. And doing these purchases, by the way, is not something you can do when you choose the advertising action. You just get the money there. So at some point you'll be moving, you know, this would be my turn to move again. I could choose anything where I wanted to go. And eventually I will move off of the main board and I'll move back into the order track here. And so that will determine my order for the next round. In a 3-player game, you'll go around 3 times. And where you land at the end is a way to get points. The other ways to get points are the fish are actually worth points in your aquarium. So coral is worth 1, whale, shark are worth 4. Pairs of a large and a small fish are worth 3. They have to be in the same tank to get that. So all the points are right there on the board. That's pretty handy. Another way to get points is, let's imagine that when I was here earlier and I spent 2 to get that seaweed, let's say I had 6. I can buy as many things as I want. So I could spend 2 to get that seaweed. I was already getting the turtle. I could spend 2 more to, say, buy a coral, and 2 more to get this turtle that happened to be on the board as well. And now if you see here, my tank has 2 turtles and a coral. So up here, I would take my marker and I would say I was the first one to achieve this. So not only am I going to get the maximum points, 5 points at the end of the game, but I also am going to get this seaweed and this turtle. And I can place these in any tank. It doesn't have to be next to my worker. So maybe I can stick them over there. They don't necessarily have to go in the same tank if you get to, but in this case, I mean, it sort of does, right? Because turtle requires seaweed in a tank. Other players can still achieve this objective, but they'll get, 4 or 3 points. They won't get those bonus things. So again, this board is going to clear out. Some things might get skipped. Let's say we all went around and, a bunch of these things got taken, but a bunch were skipped. Then you just reach in the bag and you pull things out and you just start filling those spaces with new stuff. And if there was stuff already there, now there's just double things on there. Right. And that's how the, second round, third round, etc. would go. So there are some advanced things that you can put in the game. This is one of the ones that comes with the game. This comes in an expansion. This one comes in an expansion. So, I'll leave you to figure out the rules on the advanced stuff on your own. And these are the expansions that are available with different pieces and such. But that is generally how you play Aqua Garden. All right, so let's go back and we'll tell you what we thought of it.
Excellent. Thank you, Steve. That was a very thorough examination and explanation of the game. You almost mansplained it to us, but, we'll let that one go a bit. All right. So anyway, let's go ahead and talk about the game. Steve, why don't you start us off?
Okay, so I'm going to talk a little bit about what I like about the game. And I think it's the mechanism that I think you call it a time track, where the idea is the person in the back is the person who gets to go next, right? So you can jump ahead as far as you want to get the thing that you want, but then you're leaving all these things behind for your opponent. And there's a lot of games that do that mechanism, and I'm always sort of a fan of it. And it is, it works here, right? There's going to be a whale shark out there that you really want. There's going to be those advertising spaces that if you don't jump ahead to get them, somebody else is going to, right? So it's got some of those interesting decisions I like. And, I think it's pretty well done in this game.
Yeah, I hear that. I like that also in general. Quite frankly, I think I like it in other games a little bit better. I know you and I differ on this, Steve, but I prefer Patchwork. I think that's an excellent little game. And of course, we probably all played Takenoko. That's probably the first one I can think of anyway that actually featured that.
Tokaido?
Oh, yeah, Tokaido. Exactly right.
Yeah.
Tokaido, Takenoko, Tomato.
I mean, there are other games that do this, I think, better. Tokaido probably does. I really like a game called Kraftwagen that has this. Francis Drake has this as well.
That's true. Francis Drake, yeah.
I think that as an introductory game that is just sort of this mechanism without a lot of other things around it, that this game works pretty well. I think probably most people would say Patchwork is a better introductory game for this mechanism, but for me, I like the theme of this one and everything around it better. So for me, this would be it.
I really like this mechanism. I think it presents a lot of interesting choices, especially for the person that's farthest behind, because, what are you going to do? Are you going to slowly crawl and get as much as you can, or are you going to jump ahead and grab that thing right in front of the next, the person that's all the way forward? So I do enjoy that mechanism. What do you think, Tiff?
I thought it was a really cute game. I really liked the aesthetic of it. The meeples were all these different sea creatures, and I thought I really enjoyed using these adorable little sea creatures to decorate my aquarium or my series of aquariums. There were some components that were not as nice as, I think they kind of blew their load on the meeples and then didn't really have much left over for the boards. But I really liked the look of it. I will say my dislike, and it's a little nitpicky, but for me, it really, I think it was the factor that would make me not want to play again. Was it just the luck of the draw? Our in-game scoring, 2 of the cards that we drew required a whale shark. And in a 3-player game, there were only 2 whale sharks in play. So half of our objectives were not achievable by someone. spoiler alert, it was me. I was the person that did not get to achieve them. But it's a little frustrating when you're halfway through the game, 3/4 of the way through the game, and like I'm not even getting backup points for that objective because there are no more of that fish left on the board. So I think that's probably the factor that for me, if I was given another choice of any of those other games that you guys said, I would probably choose one of those over this one in the future, which is a shame because I thought this one was super, super cute. And like I said, like designing the aquariums and setting out your fish in the aquarium and stuff was really cute, especially because we're looking at getting an aquarium. So it's something that's very near and dear to my heart right now. So that's my 2 cents.
I agree with you as far as it goes. Now, I mean, I was one of the people that did get a whale shark, but you're absolutely right. I mean, that's almost not fair that that's just taken off the table. And it's not like, all right, there's a lot of games where things are unobtainable, but I also feel like in those games, there's a way for you to kind of
mitigate a little bit.
Yeah, or compensate for that in another way. Maybe even by just speeding up the game so that it really takes some of that advantage away from the other players who need to build up to these bigger things. But in this, you can't really speed the game up. You can speed your own game up just by flying around that circle, but it's not, everybody else is just going to take their time around there. So I kind of agree with you on that. I didn't really think of that as a dislike, but I think that's a really good one. And it's something that seems to be, you can easily fix that. Like, why not just put as many whale sharks in there as there are people? That seems like such a simple thing.
You know, I think by design, you're not supposed to finish all of those objectives. And I've played this game other times without you all, and not everybody finished every objective. But yeah, when we played, you and I, Eric, we finished all 4 of them, right?
Sure did.
So, yeah, I don't know. I think maybe that was a fluke when we played or something like that.
It might be.
A fluke.
Very well done. Yeah, at least you're not floundering over here. Okay. All right. But overall, I agree. Like, all right, like Tiffany said off camera before we began, it's one thing if there's 4 of them and there's 4 players and somebody just gets 2 of them. That's the way it goes. But to not even have that option, to just look at 2 of the scorings and go, well, I can't even get that because he went before me and he went before me and they're gone. And that's just the way it goes. So I agree with that. Tiffany already did both like and dislike, so I'll probably jam mine all into one huge run-on sentence as well. I think by far that the fish meeples were clearly the star of the show here. They are unbelievably cute. They're really well done. Quite frankly, it's probably worth the cost to buy the game just to get all those meeples. It would probably cost you just as much money to go somewhere and find these fancy fish, I don't know, seahorse, coral, sea turtles, like this menagerie of beautiful fish underwater meeples is amazing. Like Tiffany, I also agree that they apparently blew their entire budget on that because everything else is like card stock, which is not very impressive. And it's fine. It's the way most things were made for a long time. It's just a little jarring to have these beautiful fish meeples, and then it's just right down here on this card stock. So I hear that. But like I said, it's also easily, to me, the most beautiful part of the game is having all of this going on. I think my dislike, even though I just kind of gave you one anyway, is I feel like it's a little boring. Now, I mean, if you look behind us, we have hundreds of games. So there comes a point in this where you feel like, I've done this, I've played that. This is just another thing. So if you haven't played 1,000 games, you might very well pick this up and it becomes your favorite game. But to me, I just feel like I've been down this road before and it wasn't that different enough to really justify it on my shelf. What do you think, Steve?
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, like I said, there are other games that do this mechanism that I have that I like better. Although this theme is super cute, I think for that reason, I'm going to throw it in the my kids' closet with the kids' games.
Okay,
right.
Yeah.
So I think there are several games that they have that they shouldn't be able to play. Like it says 14 and up on the box, but they can play. Like we just played Gizmos the other day or something, right? So I think this is a game that they can play. They probably won't be very good at it when they first play, but so what? They'll enjoy it. They'll like the meeples. They'll like, building putting those in their pools in their aquarium. And, if they like it enough, they'll play it some more. And then eventually they'll start to figure it out. So, I'll just put it in the kids' closet. And if they like it and they want to keep playing it, we'll play it. And if not, I'll find somebody who wants lots of cool meeples to give it to, right?
That's a good point, Steve. I didn't even think about that. But coming from a background of playing games for 20 years, it was really easy for me to cut through the chaff and figure out how to win this game. Someone that's new to the hobby, kids, you're right. They're not going to be able to just look at this and go, oh, I see what to do. Do this, then do this, then do this. So it'll be way more of a challenge for somebody that's younger, newer to the hobby. But again, people like us that have been around the block, it's just another game of that kind with really pretty fish meeples.
Yeah, and
right?
I will say, too, that, when we played it, all of us, the first time, that was the first time any of us had played it, so we were still a little bit figuring out how to play the game. When I taught it subsequently after that, super easy. I mean, everything's right there on the boards. The concepts are very simple. So, it has that in its favor as well, which is something that, gamers don't care, right? They don't need a quick and easy teach, but there are audiences where a quick and easy teach is important. So, keep that in mind.
Yeah, that's true. If you're trying to play with your mom or your kid or something, it's probably, no offense to moms and kids or dads and grandmas and grandfathers or whoever in your life that isn't necessarily a gamer, it would probably be a little bit more difficult, right? But I lost my train. Babe, you look like you wanted to say something.
I do want to say, just for the record, those age limits, though, are more chosen based on the components and the safety of those components. They're very rarely associated with the skill level required to play the game. So I don't want that to scare anybody off that's like thinking about this game for their kiddos. If you think that your kid could play Patchwork, or what did we say? Tokaido?
Tokaido. Yeah.
Then I would say this one, it's a set collection. It's, the same timing strategy of the person that's in last gets to go, which is, I think, a nice thing for kids because it's like, I'm last, but no, hey, that means you get to go next and you get to keep going until you're not last anymore. So I think it's a good mechanism for kids to play. So don't let the age limit scare you off or make you think that it's inaccessible for anybody under 14. Those really are coming from more of a safety perspective. It's got small components and it may not be safe for a young child to be around. And usually game designers and developers don't want to pay the extra fees to do the more rigorous testing to see what younger age child could safely manipulate those objects and be fine.
What age do you no longer want to eat them? Is the question.
Never. Well, no, the seahorses, I never felt compelled to put in my mouth.
What?
Maybe the kelp.
Another thing about this game, and this is actually my dislike, and talking about it now, I'm thinking maybe this is because we come from the world of playing a lot of board games, but it was the feeding event. Everybody is given an individual feeding event, and I don't know, I felt like that should have been a private objective. Right? Like, this is a thing I should be paying attention to. This is how I'm going to win the game, right? This is what's going to differentiate me from everybody else. So, I sort of maybe focused on it more than I should have. And it's just sort of inconsequential, right? It's just a little tiny bit of money that maybe you're going to get from this feeding event a few times around the board. Like, it's not worth focusing on, so it's almost like a distraction to have it. So it was kind of weird. Yeah.
I agree. And if it would have been a private scoring event, then that would have given another option to gather points to maybe offset that whole, there's only 2 whale sharks when they're, where there were 3 players. That might have been a good way for me. Like, okay, I can't do that, but let me focus on building this up. I like that.
Yeah, that's a good idea. You should design games, Steve.
What? No.
Anyway, I think that pretty much wraps it up as far as, I think we covered this. We went around the block, as I said, probably about 4 times in this. So that is
Went around the
Aqua
tank.
Garden. Went around the tank. There you go. You're a real starfish. You are.
Aw.
Oh, yes. That's my baby over there. Anyway, I'm Eric. That's Tiffany. Over here's Steven. We are Just Got Played, and thanks for hanging. Hey, by the way, thumbs, subscribe. And you'll see more of our content. Thanks, y'all. Have a great day.
We hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, please leave a comment or hit the like button. It really does help us out. If you have suggestions for future videos, let us know in the comments as well, and then subscribe to see what we come up with next.